Hey Netcode-Hub family, it's Frederick here, back again with another exciting tutorial. In our journey of mastering web APIs, we've already explored connecting to SQLite and SQL Server databases within Docker. Today we are diving into the world of PostgreSQL. Imagine you are working on a project that requires a robust, scalable database solution. PostgreSQL is known for its advanced features, strong performance, and flexibility. Now, imagine taking that power and containerizing it with your .NET Web API in Docker. This setup not only simplifies deployment, but it also ensures consistency across different environments. Perfect for development, testing, and production. Sounds amazing, right? Yes. Well, in this video, I will show you exactly how to build, configure, and run your Web API with PostgreSQL in Docker. Let's get started and take your skills to the next level. So we're going to create a new web API project. Normally I would like to start from scratch so that the new ones can also grab that. Okay, so we're going to create a web API and let's give it a project name and choose solution for that. So it's going to be demo web API with PostgreSQL in Docker. Yeah, that's going to be the name for my project. And choose a location for this project. Once I'm done, click on next. And in here we're going to enable container support. You choose for Dockerfile and we click on create to get this project created. So that is a basic step that you need to follow in order to create a web API with Dockerfile support. Now when we have this, we're going to use the scaffold section of feature to create our CRUD endpoint, because you're not much interested in that. What we're interested here, it is how to build this into web API into Docker with our PostgreSQL database connected. Okay, so after we are done, we're going to see how we can do that. Alright, so it is ready now. Solution, here you have all the necessary items that we need. Okay, so the next thing I'm going to do here is let's create a model for this, and we're going to use the scaffolded feature to continue on, create our CRUD. So you're going to add a class, and now this class is going to be, I like to use a product model. Let me set up some properties, maybe 3 or 4. You can add more. Let's give some properties in here, and I'm going to have the ID for this product. Then aside from that, I'm going to have product name. Let's add one more, and maybe this is going to be quantity. Okay, so we maintain this. Now that we are done, we can save this. We go to our project, right click on this solution. Let's go to add. We want to use this new scaffolded item. We want to create our API endpoint, and now instead of after choosing this, we need to choose our database. But first of all, choose our model, that's a product. Our endpoint here, we don't have, so let's create one, and now that's going to be product endpoint. So maybe let's say product endpoint, click on add. Then we need to choose our DB context. We don't have, so we're going to create our own, and now let's say this is product DB context. Then we're going to click on add. The next thing we're going to choose our database. Now here we need a PostgreSQL, so select this and click on add. So you wait while it's going to scaffold and install the necessary packages, and then create an endpoint for us. Alright, so you can see that here it is done. We have our endpoint, that is a product endpoint, and when you go to our program.cs file class, this file, we have it in there. We have the endpoint being mapped in here, so it's going to work. Now this is going to replace the controller. We do not have any traditional controller. Now we're having this endpoint. Okay, so once everything here has set defaultly for us, we can go ahead. Now when you check our app settings, you can see we have a connection in there. But in this, we are not having PostgreSQL server running on our machine. We have only SQL server. So if I try to connect this, we might have an issue in here. When you check our program file also, we have used SQL, that's a PostgreSQL. We have the configuration being retrieved from here. Okay, so let's change this to default connection, and maybe we can remove this. Okay, let's remove one. Great. Then let's try to perform migration. So we're going to add this. So when you go to the app settings, the database name here is quite long, so let's remove all. Then we're going to add let's say MyDB. So that's database. Start from that, we're going to have trust server certificate. Let's set this through as well. Okay. In order to connect to the database, we need a username and password. So we have a default username in here. I can change this to host. Then for the password, let's include it because we have a default username, and let's have a default password as well. So this is going to be a password, and that is a Netcode-Hub 2024. Will be okay for me. Okay, then I have my database and trusting the certificate. Good. So now that we have this, let's go ahead and let's rebuild this solution. We need to make sure we have the same name specified for the connection string as what we have. So we should not forget that. Okay. Now let's add migration. So when you go to package manager console, we must have, that's an output built. Now in here, let's add migration. And I'm going to say this is first. So in order for us to migrate the file that we have created when the app starts running in the Docker, we need to create a migration service. So let's quickly do that. And that is what we've been doing in, or we did in the SQL server. So let's do the same thing in here. Let's add a class and name it as migration service. And this must be, so let's have a method defined in here. This will be public static. Give it a name. Now this takes in an application builder. So let's create scope and also update or migrate the database. So we need to use app.application-services.createScope. Then after that, we say this service scope dot service provider dot get service, and our DB context here is our product DB context. Then we make it the database dot do migrate. Now let's go and register this service. So we go to our program. Then after the build, we're going to say migration service dot initialize, and it takes in parameter of app. So that is done. Okay. Now we are done with this. We have our Docker file created for us automatically. So that is this one. So let's use an HTTP port. So we want to expose only one port, so we can remove this. Okay, now that we have this set, what can we do again? We need to create our Docker Compose file. So right click on this, let's add a new item, and this will be YAML file. Give it a name, Docker Compose file. Let's start by specifying services, and after creating our services, Let's give it a name, specify the context, and then create or specify the Docker file, which is what that we have created in there. So let's do that. So we give it a name of web API, and aside from that, we're gonna have this build section, and that build section we can have context. Then let's have a Docker file, and that is Docker file, and this Docker file corresponds to what we have in here, so that's the name that we must make a reference to. Okay, so after doing this, let's specify the image. So what's the image that you want to give to this? And this is going to be web API. So web API underscore Postgres database. So Postgres SQL. Maybe I can add another one as v1. Okay, so that's the name that I'm giving to my image. Let's specify the port, and we have only one port, so this will be, let's make it 5003. Then we are mapping to this port 8080, that's an HTTP. After that, let's specify the environment. Okay, so the environment, I think it should be here. Now with the environment, let's specify the HTTP port. I think this should be, the arrangement is key. We should do it well. Okay, so here we have the first one. We're going to specify ASP netcore underscore URLs equal to. Then here we're going to specify the HTTP, which has the 80 or maybe the 8080. So in short, we can specify this as 80 and the same as the 8080. In Docker file 2, you must export the same thing as 80, and so it's going to work. Okay. After this, we need to specify the development. So we can use ASP netcore underscore environment. Now let's set it to development. So another one, ASP netcore, should be uppercase, ASP netcore underscore environment. And now let's set this to development. And then the next one that we're going to do, you need to create a connection string. So connection strings, and now with this you want to specify a default connection. And now this default connection, since we have it stated already, we can go to our Docker app settings, and now let's grab it from here. But now we're going to change this, so let's make this to Postgres server. So now let's copy this again. Let's go to our Docker compose file and now paste it up here. Let's terminate it. So that's what we need. We have a database specified, we have a host also. So after we are done with that, the next thing we need to do here is to specify the dependency. So this API or this API depends on the PostgreSQL database. So you need to specify that. So it depends on. And now all that you need to do here is you need to use the server. So that is a PostgreSQL. Let's grab this. It depends on this. Okay. Now we're going to specify. So we are done with our API. Let's go to the database. So in here we're going to specify database, and now this should be in line with this, the API. Okay, now after you are done, we need to specify the image, and now for this image it is PostgreSQL latest. We want to grab the latest, and let's have a look with the environment. So with the environment we need to specify the database, the password, and now the user. These are the things that we will need. So you can see from here we have the database here. So what I'm going to do here is, what's the name of the database? It is MyDB. So let's grab this and now paste them here. That's my database. Our user is the same as Postgres, and the password is the same as Netcode-Hub 2024, and it's the same as what we have in there. Okay. Yes, it's the same. Now after we're done with this, let's specify the port. So this port should be in line with the environment, and now this port is running on a default port. Running a default port of 5432. So let's have our 5432 map to 5432. That's our port. Then let's specify the volume. That's going to be the next line. So that's our volume, and now the volume must be in line with the ports. Okay. Then maybe in order for us to enforce or to make sure that they are running the same network, we can specify a default connection. So let's put the connection at the end, and this should be here. So we have a connection, that's our network, and that's my custom network. And also we specify the volumes too. So that is a way to set things up in the Docker Compose file for our PostgreSQL and our web API. So now that we are done with this, all that we can do again is we can just build this project again, then relocate to this project folder. So right click on this, go to open folder in File Explorer, and that is it. So let's open this. That we have the Docker file and the Compose file in here. So we're going to move them into the first root. So that's the first folder where we have the solution. And after doing that, we go ahead and build this. You make sure we have Docker desktop installed. So if you don't have that, you go to docs.docker.com/desktop, and now we can install any one of your choice based on the OS that you're using. Oh, good. So now that we have this, we have to, let's see, this is our host name, PostgreSQL server, and it should be in line with the Docker depends. Okay, so let's see. Now let's take our package manager console. Then let's navigate. We are in already. So you can see that we have the Docker Compose file and the Docker file in here. So all that you're going to do here is you're going to run Docker desktop, Docker Compose file, then build. Let's first build the project. So this is going to use the Docker file that we created or that we added defaultly, and I'm going to create a package as an image. So we wait for that, and we must make sure we are connected. We have a strong connection because we're going to download some things from the Microsoft side. So no such host is found. Fail to resolve this. Let me check my internet connection and get back. Alright, so let's try it again. Docker Compose build. Yeah, so that is almost done. Now the next thing that we're going to do here is when you go to our Compose, or that's our Docker, and now when we check under the images, we have to get our web API, the one that we just created. So that's a web API, PostgreSQL v1, right? It is unused. So let's start by using it. And in order to do it, you have to Docker Compose, then app. Now run this to the image. Okay, so this is going to download the PostgreSQL database. In case you don't have it already, it's going to do that. But here we have an issue. So denied by, so does not exist, or maybe require Docker login. Okay, let's go and check the Docker Compose file. So we have from the image, no, it shouldn't be SQL, it should be Postgres, now latest. Okay, let's try this again. Yes, and now this is working. So you can see that here Netcode has been created, and now this is going to run. And after doing that, it's going to execute the migration service, and this should get working. Yeah, so it's on the process. So create database. So let's wait and see. Yes, so you can see that here we have PostgreSQL init process complete, and it is ready for the startup. Let's cross-check our Docker, and in our images we have the API in use already. But you know, for our Postgres, it's also in use. Container. Okay, so we have our Postgres already. So that's what we're going to do. Let's stop this, and now let's start it again. So let's stop this. Then let's issue Docker Compose app to start this again. So attaching the API to the SQL Postgres. Yes, and this is working. You can see that it has migrated our class that we created. Right? Do you remember this? This is the migration that we added. So it has updated it, and now we have it in our database. Now it is listed on the port of 8080. The hosting environment is in production. So this ASP.NET Core environment should be development, but maybe we did not do it well. What do you think? Yeah, we try it again. Now let's see if this is working. So how do we check if it is working? Let's go to our browser, and in here it's going to be localhost, and I do remember it's listed on the port of 5003. So let's check it up here. This will be localhost, and in here we're going to choose 5003. That is the port. So Swagger, and we are not having this. So maybe this is what you need to do. Since we are having some issue in there, we need to stop this. So fail to determine the HTTP port for the redirect. Let's go to our program. Then let's comment this. And also this is in development mode, so you want to remove this. Okay, now let's build this project. This is done. Now let's go back and rebuild this. So let's stop. So we're gonna have Docker Compose build. And that is done. Now let's up it. Okay. So let's go and now refresh. And now see. So you can see that now we have our Swagger UI. Now we are connected to our image and also our PostgreSQL database. So you can see from our project in here, we are not running this, but our app is ready because we are running it in Docker as an image. Now let's try and see whether it's actually connected. So get product, and as soon as I click on this, let's see. Yeah, you can see that make and execute in here. You can see select, so that's working, and it is empty list, so we can add new product. We've added this, and now let's get it from the database. Yeah, so we have it. So very simple. You've just learned how to build and run your .NET Web API connected to PostgreSQL database as a Docker image. So now you can leverage the power of PostgreSQL in your project with ease, ensuring a consistent and scalable environment for your application. If you enjoyed this tutorial, don't forget to hit the like button, subscribe to the Netcode-Hub channel, and ring the bell for more awesome content. Thank you for watching and happy coding. Until next time, keep pushing the boundaries of what's possible.